Are live now, right? Hello, Evangelist. Am I audible, Evangelist? We focused on the Google Cloud, and we will be diving into it and with a hands-on as well, along with the introduction. And we have our guest speaker, Vijeta Pai ma'am. So she will be like getting the hands-on practice and the intro part for the Google Cloud. So yeah, ma'am, would you like to?
Own website, Cloud Demystified. So that's what I'm working on right now, where I'm using creative comics and infographics to explain cloud fundamentals and best practices. And yeah, I'm a Google developer expert in cloud. So we'll talk a little bit about that later if you want to know more. And without wasting much time, I can just dive right into my presentation and setting some rules here first. I will be first going through the entire presentation, and I want you to just put in your questions in the chat, which will be read out later. And yeah, because there's a possibility a question might be answered throughout the presentation. So I'll first be moving to the presentation. I'll keep some time at the end, I promise, for questions, and that's how we'll be going about it. Yes. So I'll just start with the presentation, Google Cloud Platform. So first of all, everyone, thank you so much for enrolling in 30 days of Google Cloud. And I hope you're having a wonderful experience so far, and it's turning out to be really informative for you. This presentation would focus a little bit on introduction, and I'll do a little bit of deep dive and show you around on Google Cloud Platform. So it might seem a little bit introductory at the beginning, especially if you have already completed Quest in 30 days of cloud. But then just hold on. I'm sure you'll learn a lot from this. So, what is cloud computing in the first place? All of you have been doing Quest, Labs, you have seen the Cloud Console, hopefully, by Amazon Web Services and Azure. There's so many cloud computing platforms available. So, what is cloud computing all about, and how did we even come up on this idea, and why is it so hot in the market at present? So, remember, any kind of organization backend to run their application on. And second, the amount of data that comes in, they need a really good way to process and store that data. What happens then? Traditionally, all these organizations used to have an on premise data center. What is a data center? Data center are basically consisted of racks, servers, and all the physical machineries, along with thousands of wires running all around, routers, switches, and just in a physical space. By physical space, I don't want you to imagine one small room, but it can run up to buildings, run up to floors sometimes. That much of racks and what used to happen. So your application or any kind of let's say website, it used to run on those servers, and what will happen in case the electricity goes down or someone unplugs one of the servers or there's a small maintenance issue that comes across, the entire company goes in a frenzy. I'll just give an example here. While I was working at Akamai Technologies, I had a system that I was managing. The system suddenly went down. I mean, it wasn't even an error, it was completely Cloud solves it for them using some of these virtualized offerings that have been provided through the cloud. Now, what are the types of cloud providers you see in the market? You might be hearing these terms, and I'd like to just throw a little bit of light on that. Public, private, and hybrid cloud providers. These are the type of cloud providers we see in the market. What do these terms mean? Let me just give you a very simple example. All of your college students, so you might either be staying at a PG accommodation or a hostel, or you might be knowing people who are staying at a PG accommodation or a hostel. So imagine you go to a college and you don't know anyone in that town. You automatically go to your hostel. So you talk to the hostel landlord or the person who's in charge of the hostel, the warden, and tell, okay, I want a room shared with two more people. So I can just stay there. I can have my own bed, I can have my own wardrobe, my own little space in the corner, and I can stay there. That way my cost will be much cheaper. I can just not worry about things like electricity, water, food. Everything is taken care of you by the landlord or the warden himself or herself. You just go up to them. They say, okay, you can just stay in a room. There are two more people you'll be sharing the room with. Even though that space is shared by three people, you have your own privacy and you have your own space. As in, there's no confusion about whose bed is where, whose wardrobe is where. But having said that, the resources are shared. Like you'll have a shared bathroom, you'll have a shared space, the fan on top of the ceiling will be shared, the light will be shared. Like if you want complete darkness in the room, you cannot have that. That light will be shared. That is how a public cloud provider works. The space there is shared between different organizations. So you commit to a resource, for example, on Google Cloud, and once you're done with it, you just release the resource and someone else takes it up. That is how it works. Like if you want to leave the hostel, you just leave it and someone else will come and occupy your bed. It's not a permanent space. So that is how it works on a private cloud, where the space is shared between organizations. And within the cloud provider, there'll be small virtual private cloud spaces which belong to you. Next, you decide that this is getting really difficult for me. I mean, I have two roommates who are up at night and I want to sleep at night. It's getting very disturbing. So you move out and catch a broker. You tell the broker that you want a private one-bedroom apartment without having to buy it, of course. So they show you a nice little one-bedroom apartment for yourself. You pay the entire rent for that apartment. Electricity, water, and everything, of course, is getting taken care of by the landlord. You just have to go. You have to live in it nicely. So what happens there? Even though you have your own privacy, even though you have your own space, you are spending a lot of money. Compare that to just sharing a room in a hostel. It can be almost 10 times that price. So you're paying a lot of money, but you have your own privacy and all the infrastructure needs like electricity, water, etc., getting taken care of by the landlord. This is how a private cloud provider works, where the space is exclusive just for one organization. So some banks, I've seen defense here, for example, people who have extremely sensitive data, they're still a little apprehensive about public cloud, and they prefer having a private cloud or the space exclusive for their organization. However, that gets really expensive because they have to commit to a particular resource for a long period of time. And it's like a one-bedroom apartment, which is expensive, but you have your own privacy. Now, what happens if you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you need some kind of privacy? You move to a hybrid model. So you move out of that one-bedroom apartment, you go back to the hostel, you talk to the warden. See, I don't want to spend a lot of money. At the same time, I don't want to share the room with three people. What can I do? How can I have my own privacy? What happens then? They decide to give you a one room all by yourself, but it's still in the hostel. So that turns out to be so much cheaper. Like you have a room in the hostel, everything is getting taken care of by the warden, but at the same time, you have your own privacy. You're not sharing the room with three people, but it's single occupancy. Only you are staying in that room. That's how a hybrid cloud provider works, which uses best of both the public and the private cloud. They just bring both of those together. Hybrid can also mean sometimes using more than one cloud provider. Sometimes companies or organizations want a fallback option, or they want to use services from two or more cloud providers. For example, they realize that something in Google Cloud, let's use the AI/ML services by Google Cloud, but Azure, maybe they want to use Active Directory from Azure. There's really good integration on Google Cloud for that as well. So the companies can have a really good hybrid model. They can have their infrastructure on Google Cloud, but they can use maybe Active Directory from Azure or something else, some other service from AWS for that matter. That kind of integration is also possible if companies are sometimes more comfortable with a service provided by some other organization. Oh, sorry, other cloud provider. Hybrid can also mean using a little bit of on premise and a little bit of cloud. Like, for example, some companies have an infrastructure on premise, but they want to use some of the other cloud features on top of their on premise architecture. You can do that as well. So, if they, for example, very simple example, they decide that they want to continue using some of the Office applications, which is not cloud based, but it's on premise. So they can continue using that, but some of the other features or some of the other services they can use on Google Cloud. That integration is also possible. That's why hybrid model lets organizations choose between best of both the worlds, whether it is public or private cloud, whether it is two or more cloud providers, or whether it is on-premise and cloud. They don't have to make the difficult decision of choosing one or the other. That's how a hybrid cloud provider works. Google Cloud Platform is a public cloud provider, as in they give space which is shared between organizations. So when you're doing all your projects on Quick Lab, you're just committing to a resource, for example. Once you're done with it, you're given that unique student ID. It gets deleted after that, and some other student takes it up. So you're still sharing the space, but you cannot get into some other person's project unless you're given permissions to do that. Like, you cannot go and see my project, even though we are both running in the same space. That is what Google Cloud does for you. Now, just I'll give a platform preview. I know most of you are already in 30 days of cloud and you have worked on the platform, but for some of you who might not have seen what a cloud platform looks like, I'll just give a quick preview here. So this is how the Google Cloud Platform homepage looks like. You can, of course, customize it. You can just click on this little button. You can move it around, have more things that mean to you. For example, billing. I want billing at the top because I don't want to spend a lot of money just while giving demos. Some people might realize I want monitoring at the top. You can do that as well. So this is how a cloud platform looks like. Compare this to a physical data center where there are machines and machines and machines, and those machines are huge. They're not like your small inverters or generators at home. So just compared to that, this is just like any other website. You can toggle between projects, like you can choose the project that you want. You have a little menu bar out here in which you can choose the service or the product that you want to use. Everything is at your disposal. If this gets too difficult, you can always search for the products and resources here. For example, if you want to complete the engine, you can do that. It gives you the option to search for resources right from the little menu bar. And you have a little cloud shell here, which means if you're into coding and you want to just you want to write a code, you can always use this cloud shell. How that is, whether you're a heavy coder or whether you're a no coder, I mean, that means you don't really like to code too much. It has flexibility for you to choose whatever you want. So you can either choose a highly customizable option where you only have to code everything and choose everything, or you have a highly managed option where you don't really have to worry about coding. Dialogflow, for example, it's an AI/ML platform which you might be coming across very soon in your 30 days of cloud, in which you can build chatbots without really having to write a single line of code. This is how it looks like, and you can see the error reporting here. You have all the getting started guides and documentation. Everything is at your disposal on cloud. This is how a cloud platform looks like. Moving ahead. Some of the advantages. I've touched briefly upon this, but I'd like to reiterate it once more so you're very clear on why you're even doing 30 days of Google Cloud in the first place. First, data processing and analytics. All cloud platforms, especially Google Cloud Platform, superpower is the kind of data processing and analytic capability that is associated with it. Now, imagine a large organization or even a very small one for that matter that wants to improve. They have a lot of data coming in. You can either take the data, dump it into a place, or you can use that data to improve user performance. You can get enhanced features based on the requests that people are coming in. You can run some of the intelligent analytics to have machine learning or having some of the intuitive features that's associated with analytics. So basically, it's an open playground for you. You can choose analytics to improve performance, get more users to engage with your application or with your organization. And Google Cloud helps you harness that power of data into one platform. So you don't really have to sit and do the analytics do the analytics on your own, but Google Cloud does it for you. You just have to set up the right queries, and you just have to set up the right conditions, and all the analytic reports, monitoring, everything is provided to you as on the platform itself. It's a one-stop shop basically. Next, agility. You must be hearing this term a lot or will be coming across it very soon. What does agility mean? Agility is just the ability to adapt very quickly to change based upon the circumstance that you're receiving. So it means just being agile, just making quick decisions, thinking on your feet. It's very easy for a person or for me or you to do that. Like, for example, even when you're in college or when you're doing work at home, quickly adapt to change. We do that without realizing. But it gets really difficult for machines to do that sometimes, or for organizations that have scaled up a lot, as in big organizations that are growing exponentially, to quickly get agile and adapt to change. Google Cloud Platform helps us do that. I'll just give a very simple example. Suppose you're in an organization and you're realizing that you're an e-commerce website, so you're selling stuff online, and suddenly you realize that a lot of people are continuously calling customer service with queries, even though you have a help page available. The customer service gets a lot of questions and they're getting frustrated, they're getting overworked, that's making them overburdened, and you realize, even though you have a help section, why are people continuously calling the customer service? That's when you understand that maybe it will be more useful having a chat bot out there. So quickly, as soon as someone goes on some of the product page, a chat bot will pop up. Hey, do you have any questions? Great. They can just type the question in the chat bot and get it answered. So if it's a very common question that is there in the help guide, it can quickly get answered, or they can send a link to the person. Hey, I think you're looking for this. You can please click on the link and get the information. That way, a lot of time will be saved for the customer care team because most of the people are getting their questions answered by the chatbot. So that is what you did. You were agile. You thought on your feet that I want to quickly have a chatbot so I can have more users engaged in my website, because sometimes users also get put off. Okay, this website is not giving me what I want, and they can just leave. That will cost you a lot of money. But this way, if a chatbot is there, they can always type their queries and get it answered. And if needed, they can forward it to the customer care team. So, doing that on cloud is very, very simple. The minute you realize you need a new feature or you need something, a new product or a service to quickly, think on your feet or adapt to change, you can do that on Google Cloud Platform at the click of a button. If you know coding, well and good. If you don't, you can also have some of the no code products that are available, like Dialogflow I mentioned a while ago, in which you can create a simple chatbot by just parsing the help section you have, and the chatbot will be created for you without writing a single line of code. It's as simple as that. You'd have to just spend 10 minutes and the chatbot will be created for you. In 10 minutes, you have saved thousands, or let's say crores of rupees for your company. So that is how agility works. Compare this to not having your applications on cloud. You would need to build an entire machine learning model from scratch and have it on your website. And it can have performance issues. It can be really time consuming. You'll have to pay a lot of developers to build that for you. That is what cloud does for you. Compare 10 minutes to maybe 10, 12 days and a lot of money. Next, scalability. What is scalability? Scalability is nothing but the ability to scale up and down based on load. What do I mean by that? Suppose you are a gaming website, you have your own gaming website and you have your own game for that matter. You realize 2 a.m. at night, there are a lot of people playing the game because they are free from work, they are awake, and it's a Friday night, for example, and they're just playing with their friends. Suddenly you realize, maybe let's say at 7 in the morning, there are not a lot of people who are using it, and maybe very, very few people, because who wants to just get up at 7 a.m. in the morning and start playing a game on a weekend? That in that circumstance or in that situation, the application should be able to scale up when there's a lot of people who are coming in, as in, if there are a lot of people who suddenly log in at the same time, the performance should not go down, because that would really upset the people and they choose another game over yours. And when there are very, very few people, you don't want to pay a lot of money as well, right? Why to pay for, load, or let's say capacity, accommodating 1,000 people when there are just 2 people on the platform at that moment? That is what cloud does for you. It helps you scale up and down based on load, as in you can just set some conditions. At 4 o'clock, I'm going to expect a lot of load, so it has to scale up. Maybe at 7 o'clock, I won't be expecting that much, so it has to scale low. You can do that based on the analytics reports that you have been generating, first point. And otherwise, you can also have something called as elastic scalability. So by elastic, it just means automatic scaling up and down based on the analytics report that are being run by Google Cloud itself. So you don't have to worry about even writing a single line of code. So Google Cloud will scale it up and down for you based on the load they're receiving. And even if the load gets increased a lot more than what you're expecting, suppose it's a long weekend and there are a lot of people coming in even on a Monday, Cloud can handle that for you. So that is what Cloud does. It helps you just maintain the number of people who are coming in, and even if there are less people, it helps you save on cost and performance, no matter how many people are there on your application. Next, you have lower infrastructure maintenance. What do I really mean by that? I've been mentioning this right from the beginning, that having an on-premise data center would mean having an entire dedicated team to handle the infrastructure maintenance. Google Cloud helps you save on that because they are only taking care of all the backend. You don't need to have a team to deploy servers. By deploy servers, I mean just carry the racks and all the physical machinery into the data center to maintain that, to make sure electricity is up, generator, water. I mean, there are hundreds of things out there just taking care of a data center. All that infrastructure maintenance cost is saved because Google Cloud is taking care of that. Next is lower cost. By lower cost, I just don't mean the infrastructure maintenance cost, but Google Cloud also has sustained and committed use discounts. So these discounts actually help you lower your cost if you commit to a resource. So I'll give an example. You just go to Google Cloud and say, "Hey, I want a virtual machine or a compute engine instance which will run for the next 5 years." Google Cloud will give you an amazing discount for that because you have committed to a certain amount of time. That's called a committed use discount. Next, we have a sustained use discount. That is, if you have been sustaining a particular resource over a period of time, Google would give you discounts for that as well. There are a lot of contracts, a lot of discounts that Google Cloud offers, which would actually help you save a lot more and concentrate on using that money for something else in your company. So these are the advantages of some of the advantages of moving to the cloud. Of course, there's a lot more. Like you have AI/ML capabilities, you have a good support system of Google out there. As in Google that has a lot of years and years of experience, you have their backing. You have the partners backing. We have excellent partners who are partnered with Google. And you have their experience and exposure as well if you have any problem. So basically, you have people to go to if you have any problem at all. So bare minimum, these are some of the advantages of moving on to the cloud. Now, next slide. Cloud services. I've been talking about Google Cloud, services, infrastructure. And what do I mean by all these mumbo jumbo terms? Just broadly classified, some of the cloud services provided by Google Cloud Platform are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Of course, there's also function as a service, but I won't really be going into that right now. I'm just going to touch upon these three as a bare minimum. What are these three, or what do they mean in the first place? Now, just the broker, he showed me a completely unfurnished house because I want to go in there. I'll set up my own light, I will set up my own furniture, I'll set up my own bed, and everything I will take care of it on my own. So the broker shows you a completely unfurnished house. You step inside that house and you see, okay, it's completely an empty space. And I need to set up the light. I need to put the light. I need to put all the fixtures. Even the taps are not there for me. Everything I have to do. And you realize, even though this provides me with a lot of flexibility to customize my own house, like if I want a yellow light, I can have a yellow light. If I want a white light, I can do that. If I need a fan, I'll put it. If I don't need a fan, it's a cold place, I don't won't even put it in the first place and save on electricity. So even though that helps you really customize your space, it requires a lot of work. But the back end or the complete infrastructure, like if there's a leakage in the house, or if there's a seepage or something like that, the landlord will take care of it for you. That is how infrastructure as a service works, where the infrastructure or the hardware is provided to you by Google Cloud Platform. You have to customize and specify everything else to make sure that your application is running. I'll just show an example of all of this in a while, but just keep this in mind while I'm talking. Next, you realize you go up to the broker and tell the broker, hey, I don't really want an unfurnished house because it's a lot of headache. Can you just show me a semi-furnished house? The broker says, great, and shows you a semi-furnished house. In that semi-furnished house, all the lights, fixtures, everything is given to you by the cloud provider. By the landlord. You just have to buy your own furniture. You have to buy your own couch, you have to sofa, or you have to buy your own table chair. Have to buy your own bed. Everything you have to buy on your own. But the thing is, all the fixtures like the light, fan, taps, everything else is provided to you by the landlord. That is how platform as a service looks like, in which the hardware and the operating system is provided to you by the cloud provider. Everything else is being customized by you. It is like a semi-furnished house in the house of worlds, a world of houses. Next, we have software as a service. Now, you go back to the broker and say, I don't really want to buy my own furniture also. So, can you just show me a completely fully furnished house? It says, great, shows you a completely fully furnished house in which light, fan, fixtures, everything else is provided to you by the landlord, as well as table, chair, bed, everything. It's a completely furnished house. You just have to come, you have to get your own plates, you have to get your own pots and pans for cooking, and you just have to live there. That is how software as a service works, in which the hardware and the software is both provided to you by the cloud provider. What do I really mean by that? Most of you might have actually also worked on Google Drive or any other online platform like that, like Office 365 or Google Drive. But since you're all acquainted with Google, I'm going to talk about Google Drive. In that, the hardware and the software is provided to you. Just think, you just have to go maybe upload a document or create a folder, and everything else is being taken care of you by Google Cloud only. Any kind of workspace applications on Google Cloud. That is how cloud services work. So broadly classified, these are the three cloud services. Like I said, there's also function as a service that I haven't touched upon here, but you'll be learning about it in 30 days of cloud. But remember, whenever you're talking about any kind of service, you can always use this analogy to understand what the company needs in the first place. Not everyone needs infrastructure. Some companies just want maybe an application to run. So they want to just go in and code and want the application out in the market. Some company maybe just wants to use maps, like Pizza Hut is one of Google Cloud's customers. They just wanted a map on their application. So they went to Google Cloud and subscribed to Google Maps as a platform. They didn't move their entire on-premise data center to Google Cloud. So we should never assume while we're working in a company that any person that comes or any organization that comes to us wants to move their entire infrastructure onto the cloud. Maybe it's the entire infrastructure in which they'll get a compute engine instance, or maybe it is just they want to maybe run some functions, maybe some triggers, or just an application in which they have to use some other service. Always remember to ask this very important question, whether it's an interview, whether you are working in a company, or whether you're even working in Google in future. Next, demo time. Because I've been talking about all these services, what do these services look like? Some of you might have already deployed a compute engine instance, I'm pretty sure, but I'm just going to show you a little bit about this. This is a cloud platform that we are in, and let me move on to compute engine and VM instance. So you can deploy a virtual machine on a compute engine, a virtual machine on compute engine, and I'm just moving on. This is three little dots and creating an instance. So if you have played around with this as a part of your labs, you would know, I mean, how this works. So for example, in this particular instance, I can just name it demo one because that's what we're doing right now. And you can choose, you have to choose your own region, you have to choose your own zone, you have to choose your own machine configuration. And depending upon the configuration you choose, notice this right hand side. This is the money I would have with the current configuration. But if I move up and maybe choose N2D, it moves up to $50 per month as compared to maybe $24 per month. You realize I want to have I have a game and I want a nice little GPU for myself. You have this NVIDIA Tesla. Now just see how much the monthly estimate has gone up to. It is $2,000. That's almost 10, more than 10 times, actually 100 times the cost you would incur without a GPU. You're like, no, I don't want this. I'm okay with whatever we have, and the monthly estimate gets accordingly adjusted for you on the right hand side. So you also have to choose your own CPU, memory. You can choose your own container if you want to just deploy it, the boot disk, identity and API access, firewall rules, even networking disk and security management. So anything you want to do on out here, everything else is being customized by you. Think about this like the completely unfurnished house I was talking about, where everything is being customized by you. Just the platform or the infrastructure is being provided to you by the landlord, and in this case, by Google Cloud. So it is excellent. Like I said, there are some gaming companies which are offering companies who want a GPU for their work. In that in that situation, they don't mind spending more. They can actually specify their own GPUs, even the quantity for that matter. They'll have a little lesser cost. Let's say 20%, right? That to create your own, have such a highly customizable solution. You move on to something called App Engine, which is Google Cloud's platform as a service offering. Now, since I've already created an instance, what I'm going to show right now is how to quickly toggle between projects on the cloud platform. It is that simple. Like I just clicked on this little button out here, my first project, and I moved on to another project. So I'm choosing another project, I'm selecting it, I'm choosing the new organization, my first project, and just toggle between projects here. Or I can choose the new organization, another one, developer resources, and I'm choosing 30 days of Google Cloud presentation. See, it is that simple if you want to toggle between projects. You might have this as a part of your labs, for example, that go from one project to another. Just click on this little button out here. It is that simple. I'm creating an App Engine instance for that matter now. And here you can see you have to just choose the region. And once you choose the region, you have to go next. And just for information, I'm not really going to deploy these applications because I don't want to incur a large cost, but I'm just showing you, how well customized or how well managed these resources are. That's the reason why I'm showing this little bit of this small demo. And once you're setting the region, while it is taking time, I'll just show you some of the, while it is just loading, I don't want to waste time here, but you have a lot of, you can set up cron jobs, or you can set up task queues, instances, or even version your particular application once you make changes to it. All that services are provided to you. So like if you see here, you can choose the language, you can choose the environment, a Cloud SDK that you can actually download later. That's it. And once you do that, your application will be deployed for you. Compare this to the kind of options you had seen in Compute Engine a while ago. You have so many options that you can choose from and that you have to specify, and you cannot go ahead without that, as compared to App Engine, where it's not simple as not specifying anything at all, but at the same time, you have to specify a little bit. That is how platform as a service works, which is like a semi-furnished house. The lights, fixtures, everything is provided to you, but furniture is being set by you yourself. Now, moving on to software as a service, Google Drive. Most of you might have used that, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on software as a service. But you just go and create a folder. You just set the IAM policies, which means you have to say who has viewer access, who has editor access, because you don't want someone to just get into your application if you don't set the right permissions. And that is it. Everything, all the backend, all the configuration, like the operating system, all these networking and everything else, everything is being provided to you by the cloud provider or by Google Cloud. These are some of the services that are being provided to you by Google Cloud. And depending upon the kind of organization you are, you can always choose, okay, I want a Compute Engine instance, I want an App Engine instance, I want a Firebase. What do you want? There are a lot of services and products available on Google Cloud, which you'll be learning in 30 days of cloud. So I won't be running on, through all of that now. Next, cloud security. This is an extremely important part of Google Cloud or any other cloud provider for that matter, which is sometimes also overlooked by people. I know many people who are not really deeply invested in security, although they keep complaining that their data is not secure with Google Cloud. But I want you to remember that cloud doesn't mean lack of security. You have to just remember how to secure your applications and your data on cloud, and you'll be good to go. I'll just tell you what cloud security is. Let me define it for you. Cloud security is nothing but technologies, processes, policies, and controls to make sure your applications are secure on the cloud. What do I mean by these mumbo jumbo terms? Cloud security doesn't just mean having let's say a product, or let's say having some technology or controls just to take care of your applications and washing your hands off it. It is actually a mixture of all of these. What do I mean by technologies? So maybe Google Cloud provides you with really good monitoring services and technologies to make sure your data is secure on the cloud. So you need to have those in place. By technologies, I also mean some kind of testing kits, and everything should be there in place. Next is processes. Process is extremely important in security, so people inside and outside your organization also know how to make sure that your data is secure. Some of the processes can also mean multi-factor authorization for that matter. What do I mean by that? Sometimes you go onto a website and you try to log in your banking, for example. You don't only have to enter a password, but they also ask you to write the last four digits of the debit card, or they send an OTP to your phone. So it's not just one factor authorization, it is multi factor. That is, you'll be either sent an email, or you'll be sent an OTP, just to make sure that it is you who's getting inside the inside the particular application, and no one else is getting access to your sensitive data. Next is policies. What do I mean by policies? Now, when you have an e-commerce website like Amazon, for that matter, you have a lot of sensitive credit card information in there, or you have an app that runs on maybe Google Store. You have a lot of sensitive information out there, like credit card data, addresses, and you need to make sure that your application complies with all the compliance standards in the industry. PCI is a very common one, which actually makes sure that your credit card information is safe on a particular application. So they have a really big list of all the security measures you should take, like deleting data after 180 days, or making sure that there are constant monitoring and checks that are there. There are a lot of conditions that they set out for you, and you have to make sure that you're tick marking all of that, and you have to prove it to some agency, that's a PCI agency, and let them know that yes, our application is following all of this, and we know our customer data is secure on our application. Like, no one else can gain access to my credit card information. Those are the policies you need to set whenever you're running an application on cloud. Next, finally, it is controls. So you should know who has what access and what kind of controls are being provided to you. So monitoring is a really good one here, because you need to have a team that's monitoring access. Like, it's like a CCTV camera. You have to make sure if there's any unwanted person outside who's just trying to get inside your application, or also, I mean, if there's someone inside your organization who's trying to go into some other folder that they don't have any work to do with. So that would show you that they're lurking around for some reason. So having all these technologies, processes, policies, and controls in place, make sure that your data is secure on cloud. And remember one thing. Many people have told me, many of my customers, that how can we move on to Google Cloud when Google will have access to all of our data? It's not that case actually. You have to remember that. Even though your application and your data is on Google Cloud, it doesn't mean that Google Cloud has visibility into all of your data. Everything is encrypted, right? Every data in transit, storage, or at rest in transit, rest, or at use is encrypted by Google. So when you have a data in the cloud, you can specify who has what level of access and what kind of encryption you want to put that in, to make sure that neither Google nor people inside your organization nor people outside your organization have access to the data unless you grant them the permissions to do that. That is how you can make sure your data is secure on the cloud. And you don't have to worry about security as long as you have a really robust security model out there. Next, shared responsibility. I've been talking about this for a while now. What is shared responsibility? Security is not just your responsibility or the responsibility of Google Cloud. It's actually a really nice shared responsibility model. You can find this matrix online as well, but this is not exhaustive, but it's more of an understanding between you and the cloud provider. Now, just go back to infrastructure as a service. If you have an infrastructure as a service product, or let's say service running on your on the cloud, people, data, applications, and operating system, and all the security responsibilities associated with that are yours. That doesn't mean that Google Cloud won't help you at all. They will guide you, they'll give you white papers, they'll give you consultations, but you are accountable for that. Like, you cannot just go and sue Google Cloud if something goes wrong. So you have to make sure that by people, I mean everyone has the right accesses. Like if someone just needs to go and view an application, just don't give them an editor access. So people, security associated with people and permissions are your responsibility. Data, just make sure your data is safe and secure. Encryption, I've been talking about that for a while. Just make sure data is encrypted. Next, applications, that is application layer security. That is also your responsibility. And operating system patches, security patches, and all, completely your responsibility. Compare that to platform as a service where people, data, and applications are your responsibility. But any kind of security patches and all that comes for the operating system is the responsibility of the cloud provider. Just because the operating system is getting provided to you by the cloud provider or Google Cloud. You saw in App Engine a while ago, you didn't get to choose your own operating system, they chose it for you. So it's their responsibility to make sure all the security patches and all are happening on time and everything is safe. In software as a service, people and data are your responsibility, but application and operating system level security is the responsibility of the cloud provider or Google Cloud. What do I mean by this? When you go into Google Drive, you have to make sure that people, that is, you want to give people correct viewer and editor access. That's your responsibility. Data, you have to make sure you're not putting any sensitive information, or if there's any password and all, make sure that's encrypted, or let's say it's in some code language that you put inside. But application layer security, like you don't really pay much attention to security of the application on which your Google Drive folder runs, or the operating system patches and all associated with security. That's a responsibility of Google Cloud. This model is not exhaustive, but it's more of an understanding that you and Google Cloud are both equally responsible for the security of your applications, of your operating system, data, as well as people, depending upon the kind of services that are being provided to you and depending upon the kind of bandwidth you have. Like if you don't really have a team that's well versed with security, you can always ask Google to help you. They will help you with that as well. They'll give you white papers, or they can just have a team to help you out. Next. What are some of the security best practices? Identity and access management that I touched upon a while ago, which means that giving right accesses to people and giving the at least privilege to people what they require. What do I mean by that? If someone just needs to go and view an application, don't give them editor access. Just give them viewer access because that will help you safeguard your application. Next, active monitoring. This is like a CCTV camera. So make sure that just keep monitoring the surroundings outside and make sure that no one else is trying to gain unauthorized access into your application. Next, we have firewalls. By firewall, it's basically like a window, a tinted window where you can look outside, but people outside cannot look at you. It's like a tinted window in a car. You can see outside people are going in a bike, but they cannot really look inside and see what you are doing. So when you're allowing traffic to go one way or the other and setting up rules for that, that is what firewalls are all about. So that way, if you have a shopping application for that matter, you can make sure that people outside are not really getting inside your application. And just, I mean, as far as the traffic is concerned, but at the same time, they're gaining access to the services they need to gain access to. Next, we have testing. All companies or organizations have a team of testers or they have developers who do testing to make sure that your application is really sturdy and secure from the inside. They try to break your application from the inside and see if there are any cracks or if there's any vulnerability from the inside and fix it. Like, what do I mean by all of that? A team of testers can just sit and try to break the code or break the application, and then they'll go up to the developers and say, hey, this particular line, just fix it for me. Because if a hacker gets access to that, a lot of data will be compromised. So it's basically testing your application or your structure from within so people outside don't catch that before you. Last is data encryption. Encryption is nothing but storing your data in a very weird format, or let's say a very unreadable format. So even if people gain access to your application or your data for that matter, they cannot really make sense of what is written. It's like the password. Sometimes you go on websites and you type out your password, and then you see it is being converted into some weird stars and symbols. That is what data encryption is all about. Make sure your data is encrypted not only at use, as in when it's moving through the application, but also once it is stored somewhere. Even if it is stored forever, you have to make sure that it is encrypted because it can contain something really, really sensitive. Finally, what next? I've talked so much about this. You people are enrolled in 30 days of Google Cloud, but what if you want to learn more? I'll just talk a little bit about that. So you can gain skills. So there are online courses and professional certificates using which you can go gain skills. Coursera is the most right now. It's the one that's been promoted a lot by Google Cloud. And as a part of this 30 days of cloud, the courses are provided to you for free for a month. You can leverage that. And this professional certificate and courses not only help you upskill in the field of cloud computing, but it can also help you showcase your skills. Like if you have a professional certificate in cloud architecture by Google Cloud, you can put that on your resume, and that really helps you get in calls for interviews. And also these courses are extremely helpful for because to network with people in Google Cloud. I know some instructors who taught Coursera courses, and I just reached out to them on LinkedIn. They help clear my doubts because there are people who are working at Google and they're actually experts at that, and also help me learn more. And it's a really good way to network with people across the globe who are teaching you all these courses. Then you realize, what if I want to do some of the on-campus courses? People are doing your bachelor's right now. What if I want to do masters? You can do masters in cloud computing, data science. There's cloud and network infrastructure, computer science with different concentrations, like you can do it on cloud computing, and masters in information assurance if you're interested in the field of security. 30 days of Google Cloud will actually give you a jump start into all of this. So you know after these 30 days whether cloud is the right one for you or not, and what in cloud is really interests you. Like if you realize networking is my thing, you can just do a master's degree or you can just pursue more of your education in networking. Next is certifications. This is a really hot topic, and I have a lot of questions being asked around that. So I'm going to spend some time on certifications. There are three levels of certifications: foundations, associate, and professional that you can pursue after your 30 days of Google Cloud. Foundation is extremely basic, and you don't really need to have a lot of hands on Google Cloud in order to give that certification. Associate is somewhere in between, like you need to have at least 6 months of experience to give that associate certification. Finally, it's professional. Professional is when you have around 3 years of experience or really exhaustive experience in Google Cloud, and you can specialize in one or more of the concentrations. So in this, you can either concentrate on network engineer, architect, DevOps, security, machine learning, or developer certification, depending upon what your interest is. So I'll just show you a small demo of the Google Cloud certification page. So the cloud certification, you can just view the certification on a click of a button here. And this is cloud.google.com/certification. You can just use this link. And you can just see which certification is right for you based on your experience and based on your career aspirations. And you can click on the certifications to learn more. And like you can see all the resources that are here. Like if you want some of the certifications, you can check what all resources are being provided to you. And like I said, I mean, you can earn badges as part of Quick Labs, or you can have free Google Cloud training, the one I just mentioned, that right now for a limited amount of time, for 30 days, you have free access to any Google Cloud resource or a training catalog that's been provided to you. Use this to gain your skills along with 30 days of Google Cloud, because you can learn a lot more for free at this point, which is otherwise really expensive. So Google Cloud Platform, all the certifications can either be given at home. You can just sit in your own room and give it with all the security measures in place. Of course, you have to scan your room using your laptop, and you have to make sure there's nothing on the screen and everything. So if you have your own space, you're living at home, you can do that. But maybe if you're in a shared accommodation or something, you can always go to a test center and give it there as well. It's completely up to you. Now, some of the research opportunities. If you're more into research and you want to do more, 30 days of Google Cloud is a good jump start. You can network with people on LinkedIn, you can talk to the instructors, and you can do research in either big data, cloud security, artificial intelligence, or let's say ML or deep learning, DevOps, cloud cryptography, cloud load balancing, Internet of Things, green cloud computing, or containerization. All these stuff somewhere I've touched upon, but what is Internet of Things? That's extremely important actually. So some of you might be seeing this particular presentation on your tablet, some of you might be seeing it on a laptop, some on a phone. So you need to make sure that your application is optimized for different devices. There's good interconnectivity between the devices, and that's why it is called Internet of Things. Next, we have green cloud computing. What is green cloud computing? Green cloud computing means nothing but making sure you're not harming the environment just in the stride for technology. So whenever you have a data center, you have servers and racks, there's a lot of emission, carbon emission that goes out. Google Cloud has taken the commitment of countering this carbon emissions, and they're carbon neutral now for a couple of years, and they are going to go completely neutral by 2023. So that is what green cloud computing is all about. So you can just do your research in any of these areas. Next, we have some of the prominent journals if you want to get something published, because that's actually going to help you get recognized. So these are some of the prominent journals. I can share this particular presentation so you can have a look at these. So if you have a really good article while you're doing 30 days of Google Cloud and you have a really good idea, so if there's some application that you have built, you want to really write a journal article for that, you and your team of writers can, maybe your some of your peers or your friends can just write an article and submit it to these journals. If they get accepted, you get international accreditation, and you can also have it on your resume, and that's going to be extremely valuable. Now, thank you so much for sitting patiently through the presentation. You can visit my website, cloud-demystified.com, if you want to see some of the web comics and infographics I have created to explain cloud fundamentals and best practices. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Vijeta Pai 90. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk about any of the opportunities, I'm happy to do that. Or just connect with me on Twitter. All they're more active on LinkedIn. So I'm just going to let the next 5 minutes be for questions, and I'll let the screen remain for some time, and I just hand it over to the organizers now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really informative session. Like I'm sure everyone gained in-depth knowledge of like cloud and everything. And one of my key takeaways is from cloud is like how you get to learn simultaneously many things together, right? So you work on security, you work on networking, system design, everything simultaneously. So there's like whole lot of things you get to learn.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, one question I would like to pick from the chat boxes.
Mhm.
If like if we keep some private data like credentials or anything in some cloud service like Google Keep, right?
Mhm.
So will it be secure? Will it be fine to keep that data on the Google Keep? Will it be accessible to Google?
That's a very, very good question. That is why I had mentioned the shared responsibility model for any kind of security concerns that you have. You have to make sure that your data is encrypted no matter where you store it, because once it's on the internet, if you leave it vulnerable, any hacker or attacker can gain access to it. If not Google, maybe someone else, there's a very freak accident or some hacker can gain access to it. So make
Yeah.
sure it is encrypted. It is like having a small safe inside your house. That is how I understand it. So it's okay to keep your gold, let's say jewelry inside your house, as long as you have it in a safe. So even if some thief gets inside your house, they won't be able to gain access to your jewelry because it is locked in a safe. That is how it works, even on any kind of cloud application. So even if you have some kind of data, you can always have different kind of keys. So there's something called customer managed keys, customer supplied keys that you can choose on top of the encryption that's provided to you by Google Cloud. In that, the key to your encryption is actually managed or supplied by you, depending upon the service that you are choosing. So even if you have your data on cloud, make sure it is encrypted, whether it is moving through the application or whether it is stored. Like in this case, you're talking about storage, it's a stored data. So make sure that it is encrypted in some format or the other. So neither Google can gain access to it, nor can some attacker or outsider or some other person gain access to it. You are the only person who has the key to that particular encrypted data. So just look up a little bit on customer supplied keys and customer managed keys, and you can understand what I mean by
Okay.
that. Mhm.
Yes. I hope the query is resolved. So one more query. Like many of the students from our college are doing 30 days of Google Cloud. So, and also many of them are planning to get the cloud certifications from Google. So is the 30 days of Google Cloud more than enough as a syllabus to the cloud certification program, or they need to do something more?
It depends upon what kind of certification they're pursuing. So for associate, this is a good foundation. Like if it's an associate cloud engineer certification, it's a really good foundation that's being set, but it's not exhaustive. Like everything won't be covered in this. So doing some of the Coursera course, for example, you can they have it there. So it will actually help you gain more knowledge and having more hands-on, like 30 days is not enough for any kind of certification preparation. Sometimes it's not enough, like you spend an entire semester learning something in college as well, right? And any of these certifications, especially the associate certification, requires at least 6 months of hands-on experience on Google Cloud. So 30 days of Google Cloud will help you clear your concepts and prepare for the certification, but you need to do a little bit of more hands-on in order to answer the question. Like if you see some of the certification questions, they're all MCQs. So of course they're options, but the options are really similar and it's not very theoretical sometimes. So the more experience you have, the better you'll be able to answer those questions. So the answer to your question is it's good to clear all your theories and set the foundations and the best practices right. But you need to have a little bit more experience or a little bit more practice on Google Cloud Platform, more quests that you need to solve on quick labs because there's a lot available in order to prepare for the certificate.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So, Sanjana, could you please verify what are the courses like you are pointing to? Could you write?
Did you talk to me? Sorry.
No, no, we have one query like certifications
Certification
itself.
program. So in that you have really good courses, and like I said, it's free right now for a month, so you can explore it and see if it's the right one for you. I'll just see if I can just put this in the chat box.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'll do first, and then I'll put it in the chat box, so it will make it a little bit simpler to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you see here, this is Coursera. So Coursera.org/Google Cloud. You can see that you have. I'm so sorry about that. So preparing for Google Cloud Certification Cloud Engineer. So this is actually a certificate. It's a course that's being provided to you by Google Cloud, taught by Google Cloud instructors. In this, you will be learning all the skills needed to be successful in maybe a cloud engineering role and also prepare for the ACE, that is the Associate Cloud Engineer certification. And there are a lot of courses inside this particular certification. There's 6 courses, like you'll be learning about fundamentals, infrastructure, elastic cloud infrastructure, and also essentials and what kind of questions can be asked, some hands-on demo. So you get cloud engineer certification, but if the question here is specifically for architecture, there are courses for that as well. So preparing for certification, if it's a cloud sailor, machine learning, cloud network. Similarly here, it's cloud architect. So in this, there are a lot of courses along with one with professional cloud architect exam. So this is extreme in order to pass this particular course as well. So you have hands-on labs and you have exams here as well. So once you do that, you can at least have some kind of confidence that you can attempt the exam, and you would need to practice a little bit more on the cloud console as well. So as long as the courses are concerned, I think Coursera is a good one. And right now, like I said, it's free for a month. So you can join and you can just access these courses. Remember, it is Google Coursera.org. Sorry about that. Google Cloud. I'll just put this in the chat box.
Yes, I will share
it. If you can just, you can just share. Just stop sharing.
Okay, so I guess we don't have much more queries. So we can for joining, ma'am. It was some great and insightful session. I learned a lot. I guess we can wrap up now. Thank you, ma'am, for joining.
So much. Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me, and please thank Apurvi from my side as well. I know he's not here right now, but yeah, and it was great having you all. And if anyone has any doubts, just feel free to redirect them to me on my LinkedIn profile or my email if they have any questions after this. So, thank you so much, and have a good night, everyone.
Bye.